Okay, so let's do a Thor Love and Thunder review. That will probably be a little on the shorter side because my voice is still a little fucked up, and keeping this one spoiler-free is going to be a bastard because there's a surprisingly decent amount of stuff to get spoiled about, so, you should probably just go see it. Oh, wow, recommendation to go see the biggest movie probably of this point in the summer in a reliably massive franchise. Whoop-de-shit, this time last year we still didn't know if we'd still have any of this, so come on.
Giant goats!
Oh, look at those!
Anyway, yeah, it's good. By now I feel like we're kind of running out of ways to re-explain that Marvel Studios has gotten so good at making their movies that we either need to start grading them on a curve, but yeah, on the closest version I can imagine to an objective scale of measure, Love and Thunder is another big winner that makes it look easy and left me immediately wanting to watch it again for a good time. I mean, it's exactly not too long. The returning cast all knows exactly what they're doing at this point. Natalie Portman finally looks like she's having actual fun in one of these, and by one of these I mean a big movie, not just one of the Thor movies. And while avoiding spoilers by basically not talking about his character much at all, yeah, Christian Bale is probably going to be up there in the list as one of the top tier all-time MCU bad guys. In fact, is one of the main takeaways, I'd say, for how well does this actually work, and also what will the response be, because there was a stretch of Act 1 where I was feeling, okay, I'm having fun, but also this might be a little too, jokey, inconsequential. Yeah, we're openly all just here because we're surprised Chris and Natalie both said yes, so yeah, let's do all the funny stuff from the last time again, but more because this is a bonus movie, and then Christian Bale as Gore shows up, being not even a little bit kidding around, actually terrifying fucking bad guy, and it's like, oh no, okay, yeah, that was deliberate false sense of security, so now this guy could show up and actually give everybody nightmares, especially since, you'll see.
So this is my vow. All gods will die.
And you gotta hand it to Taika Waititi, because this dude really seems like he sets up his projects like the pitch room version of jumping all over flaming stuff off ramps at a dirt bike exhibition. Like, the dude can't just make a movie without it being something that's either going to be the craziest stunt he's ever pulled yet, or something that'll end his career forever. Totally reboot the entire tonal aesthetic of the Thor movies right before Endgame, no problem. What next? Hitler comedy.
I don't think I can do this.
Russ? Of course you can.
And now he's back with another Thor movie, and it's like, okay, I gotta be even more surreal and irreverent than Ragnarok was, so we're gonna do weirder aliens, crazier action scenes, more jokes, more slapstick. Did you like when we put classic rock songs during the fight scenes in the last one? Because we're doing it all the time now. And even more of that colorful rainbow sexy stuff that pisses off the sad edgy dork lords, but also I'm gonna make it the darkest and saddest thing in the MCU since forever in terms of theme and character narrative, to the point where you're gonna question how all of it could possibly fit together until it eventually does, and you go, oh, so that's what you were driving at, and also maybe for another time. Anyway, the actual jumping off point for the story is pretty clever, given that what we're acknowledging is the why is this even a thing elephant in the room. That it's weird that most of the other Avengers stories all wrapped in the last movie with them either retiring, dying, moving on, whatever, except for Thor, who sort of also did that, but also sort of didn't, because purposes of narrative, Thor is supposed to be this god, who stays as he is, so now what? And so the starting place is, wouldn't that be weird, not only if you're Thor, but also if you're one of these people who knows Thor and has to awkwardly hang around with him and acknowledges that it's weird. So after some time establishing that no, he's not going to be sticking in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise either, he gets called away to deal with Gore the God Butcher, who's traveling the universe doing what his name implies to cosmic beings like Thor and the other Asgardians who've been known as gods at some point in time. So Thor and Korg head back to Earth believing he'll attack New Asgard next, and in the meantime they discover that Thor's ex-girlfriend Jane Foster has, by means of the marketing as thus far omitted from the trailer, so I will as well, somehow been empowered by a miraculously reforged Mjolnir with Thor-like abilities and armor of her own, which leads to awkward moments both between the two people and between the two hammers, which is amusing.
Jane?
Must be hard for you to see your ex-girlfriend and your ex-hammer hanging out and getting on so well.
When Gore does attack and absconds with precious resource needed for his master plan, the two Thors, Valkyrie and Korg, aim to track him down, making a detour to a cosmic city to enlist other surviving gods of legend to their cause, which leads to a cameo-filled action sequence and a scene-stealing cameo for Russell Crowe as Zeus that's easily one of the most visually and conceptually nutty things that the franchise has ever put forward. I mean, you're going to want to see this movie just to pick out all the wacky shit going on in the background here, and just to see Russell Crowe just devour the screen playing Zeus. Like, the nation of Greece should build an actual statue of Russell Crowe in this movie. I mean, he just owns this.
And take off your disguise. And flick! Oh.
I get the sense that this is already going to be one of the divisive movies of this type in the same way that the last Doctor Strange movie was, even as I really enjoy it for a lot of the same reasons, and to be clear, they are tonally different films otherwise. What always baffles me about not the dislike part on these, but the divisive part, is that this whole broader franchise from this specific studio is just so consistently well made in terms of delivering the theatrical experience, and also so consistently lacking the pretense toward doing anything but that I don't really know how people get worked up enough to one way or the other be divided about it. Being mad at Marvel movies is like being mad at pizza. I mean, I've had bad pizza, and it was still pizza. You know what I mean? But like with Multiverse of Madness, I feel like the main ways people will get mad at this one is when you take this stuff either too seriously or not seriously enough. And what I mean by that is, in the first case, if you're in the camp that mainly watches only these movies, and you're mainly on about the continuity and stuff from the comics, and is this or that rumor or cameo gonna happen, and will it do justice to something that was already published that you built your own version of in your head years ago, and you can't divorce that from watching an actual movie, yeah, it might not go over with you, because especially now, after a decade, the cinematic universe is its own separate thing, and these are much less adaptations than they are new creative interpretations spun off from the source, doing wildly imaginative new things with that inspiration, and in this instance, they've made some really interesting and cool stuff out of it. And I know there'll be a contingent that's like, they changed too much of how Gore is in the comics, even though Christian Bale fucking owns in this, or the fact that the actual twists and spoiler stuff in this one is really all about new, different stuff to a much greater extent than usual. So we'll see. It worked for me.
This is the best day of my life!
On the other hand, I can also tell that the fact that it does try to do serious character business with Thor and Jane, which is a lot of heavy lifting, considering the movie where that was supposed to happen was Thor the Dark World, which wasn't good and nobody remembers or cares about now, and then she wasn't in Ragnarok, so they have to do some flashback stuff that's all very cute and remind and explain what's gone on there, and the eventual reason for how Jane got her powers and what that's really all about, which is very complicated. I'm sure there's a side of the audience that's going to be like, no, you can't ask me to have fun with space Viking jokes and care about an emotional narrative. You know, heaven forfend. Not that I'm trying to hard sell this as either the blockbuster to end all blockbusters or some bold reinvention of the Marvel formula. It's a July movie in the purest sense of the form, albeit a distinctly 2022 rainbow-bubblegum glitter bomb energy version thereof, and under 2 hours of fun time with exactly more emotional and creative and aesthetic depth to make it exactly better than just plain good, especially when it leans hard into what turns out to be a not just for the marketing Gen X dad rock sensibility. No joke, this is the most Jack Black movie in which Jack Black never actually appears, and decides to make the let's just put Guns N' Roses songs over everything gag its big repeating gag, right up to a stunner set piece for the final act that feels like a warm-up for a movie that they haven't said they're making, but I'm even more sure than ever that they're making. Bottom line, 8 out of 10. Hard rock movie, rocks hard.